This happened last month. I'm Jessica, a freelance graphic designer, and I had just moved to the city. I was 32 and had my infant daughter with me. I wanted to blend work with motherhood, so I often went to this popular cafe. It felt cozy, fresh coffee, warm pastries, and a nice buzz from the families around. I remember that day. I was in my favorite corner, a latte beside me, and my laptop open. I tried to focus on my work, but my mind wandered. Suddenly, a staff member walked over. He was pale and looked tense. "I'm sorry, but you can't do that here," he said, pointing at me nursing my daughter. My face went red with embarrassment. I opened my mouth to argue, but he cut me off. He asked me to leave. I was in shock. Families were at their tables, and nobody bothered them. After that day, everything changed. I felt like I was being watched. My heart raced as I walked in. The whispers among the regulars made my skin crawl. Were they talking about me? I noticed other odd things, like my bag disappearing for a moment. I defined it later, but the chill in my stomach couldn't shake. Staff avoided my gaze, and their hushed tones followed me. I started to worry. Was it really about breastfeeding? Or was there something darker going on? Felt wrong. I wanted to know what was happening behind those cafe walls. I tried to talk to other customers, feeling like an outsider. Each time I walked in, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations paused, and eyes turned. It was unsettling. I heard stories, strange stuff about the cafe. Some customers had wandered in and disappeared. My pulse quickened with each whispered tale. One day, curiosity pulled me to the back wall. Old photos hung there, and everything felt heavy. I scanned them one by one until I froze. A woman looked just like me, holding a baby. My heart stopped. Was it a coincidence? Or a warning? Just then, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned to see nobody. A chill swept over me. I went home feeling uneasy, unsure what to believe. The cafe once felt like home, but now it was a nightmare I couldn't escape. I was scared to go back, but I had to. My instincts screamed that something wasn't right. Weeks passed, and I returned to the cafe again. My hands trembled as I pushed open the door. The warm air greeted me, but I felt cold. The usual regulars stared. Their chatter stopped. I looked for a spot, feeling their eyes follow me. I took a seat, feeling small in the corner. Children laughed, but that laughter felt distant. I gathered my courage and walked to the back. I wanted answers, but as I neared the photos, a voice called out, "You shouldn't have come back." I spun around, searching for the source, but nobody was there. The cafe suddenly felt darker, the shadows creeping in closer. Who were these people? Were they dangerous? Was I overreacting? Or was there something terrifying hiding in that cafe? I felt the weight of those words echo in my mind. You shouldn't have come back. Goosebumps raised on my arms. Who had said that? Was it a figment of my imagination spurred by fear? I backed away from the wall, the photos of smiling faces now feeling like they were watching me closely, judging. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being drawn into something deeper and darker. I needed to understand if the whispers were true. My heart pounded in my chest, urging me to escape. But I couldn't leave. Not now. As I stood there, I glanced back at the tables. The customers resumed their conversations, but the atmosphere felt charged. I caught the eye of a woman. She looked familiar, as if I had seen her in those photos too. She quickly averted her gaze, her lips pressing into a tight line. My stomach dropped with a sense of urgency. "Excuse me," I ventured, surprised at how my voice trembled. She looked up, eyes wide. "Do you know anything about the?" Before I could finish, she shook her head vehemently and stood up. She was leaving. "You don't want to know?" she murmured, rushing to the door. I felt a pang of frustration. How could she leave me hanging like that? But before I could follow, another voice cut through the chatter. "Mind your own business." The barista from earlier stormed over. His expression was strained, eyes darting around as if he was worried someone would overhear. "You might attract attention. Don't bring anything to light." There was menace behind his words. I took a step back, my instincts screaming that I should flee. Then something odd caught my eye. Underneath the edge of a table, a piece of paper flapped slightly, half hidden. Curious, I reached down, my fingers brushing against it. The text was scrawled hastily. Find the truth. Trust no one. My pulse raced as I pulled it free. What did it mean? Was someone else aware of the unease that cloaked the cafe? I glanced around nervously, feeling the heat of scrutiny from the other customers. My breath caught in my throat. Just then the lights flickered. Murmurs went through the crowd. I felt nausea twist in my stomach. The barista's eyes widened, his mouth closing into a grim line. You need to leave now, he stammered, glancing at the door with a worried expression. Why? I demanded, feeling bold for a moment. Is it because of me? He opened his mouth to speak but paused, then turned on his heel and walked away. I was left with the strange note crumpled in my hand. My mind raced. I knew I had to uncover the mystery. If I stayed silent now, I might lose the chance forever. As I turned to leave, I felt a sudden rush of air, a sensation as if something or someone pressed against me. My heart skipped a beat as the cafe door swung open without prompt. A chill swept in, and from the threshold, a shadowed figure stood. I didn't know who they were, but I had the feeling that my questions wouldn't end here. Something terrible was about to happen. I stood frozen as the shadowed figure lingered in the doorway. My instincts screamed for me to run, yet my feet refused to move. The figure took a step inside, and my eyes struggled to adjust to the dim light. As the person emerged from the shadows, my breath hitched. A man in a dark coat, his face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat, looked around the cafe. He seemed both in control and alert, as if he were on the hunt for something or someone. My heart raced. I felt trapped, like a fly tangled in a web. The barista had disappeared into the back, leaving me alone to face the stranger. The air felt heavy with tension, and whispers picked up among the customers, fueled by curiosity and fear. Suddenly, the man's gaze landed on me. I could feel the weight of his stare, as if he saw through my pretense. You shouldn't be here, he said, his voice low but clear. It was the same phrase that had echoed in my mind, but it sounded more like a warning now. I am just looking for answers, I stammered, trying to keep my voice steady. About this place. He chuckled softly, but it didn't reach his eyes. Answers are like shadows. You follow them, and they lead you deeper into darkness. I flinched at his words. I didn't want to be drawn into any darkness, yet I sensed that I was already knee-deep. What do you know? I asked, desperate. Why does everyone act like they're hiding something? He stepped closer, the chilling air wrapping around us. Some things are better left buried. You're playing a dangerous game, and I can't protect you if you don't want to listen. Another flicker of light interrupted our exchange, and the lights dimmed again. I felt a rush of panic as I looked back to the other customers. They were watching, their eyes wide, whispers growing louder. Then, the barista returned, frazzled, his expression stricken. Get out. Now, he shouted at me, glancing frantically at the man. Why? What's happening? My voice rose, confusion clawing at me. You're drawing too much attention, the barista replied, fear evident in his tone. I told you to leave. It's not safe. Before I could respond, the lights flickered once more and then went out entirely. A gasp rippled through the cafe. Only faint streetlight filtered through the windows. Stay close to me, the man said, his voice slipping into a calm rhythm that chilled me. I hesitated but could not just vanish into the darkness alone. Then, there was a loud crash from the back of the cafe. My stomach churned. Whatever was chasing me was getting closer. I had to know what it was, but I also wanted to run. There's a back exit, the stranger said, pointing toward a hallway that led to the restrooms. Go now. In the chaos, I made a split-second decision. I would take his advice, but I wouldn't stop searching for the truth. I ran toward the hallway, adrenaline surging. But in the darkest moments, I could still feel his watchful gaze on my back. Whatever secrets lay in that cafe, they were not finished with me yet. I dashed down the narrow hallway, my breath coming in quick bursts. The smell of stale coffee and something sweet mingled in the air behind me, but the sound of chaos pulled me forward. I could hear the barista yelling, muffled through the walls. My heart raced, urging me to put distance between myself and the looming danger. I skidded to a stop at the end of the hallway, where the dim light struggled to illuminate a metal door. I pushed it open and stepped into a cramped alleyway. The cold night air hit my face like a slap. I glanced back, half expecting the man to follow. But he didn't. Instead, the sounds of the cafe faded, swallowed by the dark. Why am I even doing this? I muttered to myself. I felt a mix of exhilaration and fear, but curiosity propelled me now more than fear. I needed to understand what was so dangerous about the cafe or about me. I stepped further into the alley, feeling my senses sharpen. The buildings loomed around me, casting long shadows that seemed to crawl along the ground. My footsteps echoed, and I tried to ignore the cold creeping up my spine. I pulled out my phone, but the screen was as dark as the streets surrounding me. No service. That when I saw it. A figure standing at the far end of the alley. I squinted, my heart hammering again. The dark coat and wide-brimmed hat were unmistakable. It was him, the man from the cafe. I instinctively took a step back, the door creaking slightly behind me. Wait, he called, his voice softer now. I'm not going to hurt you. Something in his tone made me hesitate. He stepped closer, the alley swallowing any remaining light. I had to stay behind for a reason. He paused, his eyes searching mine. There are people out there who won't hesitate to hurt you if they find you. Why? I stammered, confused and unnerved. What do they want? He sighed, looking more exhausted than I remembered. They want to keep the truth hidden. I thought you had a chance to escape it, but you walked right into it. Escape what? I pressed, desperation clawing at me. What truth? He opened his mouth, but then froze, his expression shifting from worry to alarm. I followed his gaze just as a shadow loomed behind him. A figure stepped into the alley, blocking our way, their features obscured by the night. You should have left her alone? Bennett? The newcomer sneered, his voice thick with menace. Bennett looked at me, urgency etching his face. Run. In that moment my mind raced. I could run back into the cafe or try to bolt the other way. But would either option lead to safety? My body moved on instinct. I turned and sprinted toward the dark mouth of the alley, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear their footsteps behind me, echoing like a promise of danger, tightening the noose around my resolve. Just as I reached the end, I glanced back one last time. Bennett stood his ground, facing the incoming threat. I could see determination in his posture. Get away, he yelled at me. I pushed myself faster, my legs fueled by adrenaline and fear. I burst out onto the street, the lights of passing cars illuminating my escape. But deep down, I knew that this wasn't over. I'd just entered a deeper layer of the web I had stumbled into, and the truth was still out there, waiting for me. I stumbled onto the street, gasping for breath as my legs carried me away from the alley and the chaos behind me. The sounds of the city buzzed around me, but my mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stop. Cars whizzed past, their headlights flickering like urgent beacons, but I barely noticed them. I had only one thought: keep moving. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting to see Bennett or the other figure chasing me. But the street was empty, shrouded in a thick veil of night. I turned a corner and slowed to a stop, leaning against a brick wall. My heart pounded in my chest, each thump a staccato reminder of the moment I had fled. I took a few deep breaths, trying to calm the tremors in my hands. What just happened? I whispered to myself. The alley had felt so charged, like a dam ready to burst. Bennett had warned me, but the implications were still hazy. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was caught in something much bigger than my own fears. I pulled out my phone again, hoping for some flicker of light or signal. Nothing. I felt a rush of frustration. How was I going to figure this out without a means of communication? I slipped the phone back in my pocket and looked around, spotting a small diner across the street. The neon sign buzzed with life, offering a stark contrast to the darkness that surrounded me. I should go there, I thought. It was a public place, full of people. Perhaps I could blend in, shake off whatever threat was lurking. I crossed over and pushed the door open. Inside, the warm glow of fluorescent lights greeted me. A few patrons sat at the counter, engrossed in their conversations and plates of greasy food. I took a seat at the far end, scanning the room for any familiar faces. No one seemed to recognize me, but my pulse still raced. Was I imagining the sense of being watched? The waitress approached, her expression neutral. "You all right?" she asked, concern flickering in her eyes. "Just a coffee, please." "Strong," I managed to say, pushing down the rising panic. As I waited, I couldn't help but study the other customers. They seemed so ordinary, but an unsettling thought crept into my mind. What if they were all part of it, whatever it was? Just then, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I pulled it out, praying for a miracle. The screen lit up, but it was just a notification. I sighed, feeling dejected. Then, something in the corner of my eye caught my attention, a figure outside the diner. I squinted through the glass. It was hard to make them out in the shadows, but the silhouette was familiar. I felt a chill run down my spine. It was Bennett. He was looking for me. Before I could think twice, I slid off my stool and headed to the back exit. I couldn't go back into the alley, but I had to put as much distance as possible between me and whatever danger was outside. Just as I reached the door, I heard a voice behind me. "Hey, you can't leave." I didn't turn around. In that moment, everything became a blur of instinct and fear. I pushed through the door into the night, suddenly wishing I hadn't stepped into this mess at all. But before I could think of my next move, a sharp voice rang out, "Stop her." I hit the pavement, knowing that there was no turning back now. I bolted down the street, my breath coming in frantic gasps. The sounds of the diner faded behind me, consumed by the night. I glanced back, half convinced someone would be right on my heels, but the street lay empty save for flickering shadows. My mind raced. I needed a plan. I had no idea what Bennett wanted, or why he was hunting me. My heart pounded harder at the thought of facing him again. I pushed myself to move faster, keeping my eyes focused ahead. A dark alley presented itself to my left, but the last thing I wanted was to go back into the confines of that tight space. Instinctively, I opted for the main street, hoping to blend with the sparse crowd that remained. As I turned onto a wider road, I tried to gather my thoughts. What was Bennett mixed up in? And what role did I play in this twisted game? Suddenly, my foot caught on something, an uneven patch of pavement. I stumbled but regained my balance, gripping a nearby lamppost to steady myself. I took a moment to breathe. A nearby park glimmered under the streetlights. The paths lined with tired trees seemed peaceful, an odd contrast to my turmoil. Then I saw it. A newspaper kiosk stood to the side, its glass window illuminated. I let my feet carry me over. In the reflections on the glass, I caught snippets of the headlines. "Violent gang activity escalates," one read. My stomach lurched. Bennett had mentioned something about gang ties, but I hadn't fully processed it until now. What was he warning me about? I muttered, my fingers brushing against the newspaper stack. Was I somehow involved? Just as I turned to walk away, I heard footsteps approaching. My heart raced as I ducked behind the kiosk, pressing against the cool glass. Out of sight, I peered around the edge. Two men strode past, their demeanor tense, scanning the street as if searching for something or someone. Couldn't breathe. They looked dangerous, street thugs with a purpose. This wasn't what I needed right now. I had to find a way to escape. Quietly, I slipped down the sidewalk, attempting to keep my presence undetected. As I moved, I spotted Bennett's familiar frame in the distance. He stood at the entrance of the park, his gaze sweeping the area, desperate. Seeing him made my stomach twist. Did he really care about me? Or was I just a pawn in whatever he was tangled in? In that moment, I felt an ugly surge of anger. How could he put me in this position? Suddenly, a thought struck me. Could I confront him? Demand answers? But before I made a move, the two men from earlier turned sharply, their eyes locked onto Bennett. "Let us go," I thought, panic overriding my anger. It was now or never. I took off, sprinting straight into the park. The darkness closed in around me, trees looming like guardians against the chaos I was escaping. I couldn't look back. I didn't want to know what they would do next. That S when I heard a voice behind me. "She's over there." My blood ran cold. There was no escape. I dashed deeper into the park, my feet pounding against the gravel path as adrenaline shot through me. The branches reached out like skeletal hands, tugging at my clothes, but I couldn't stop to fight them off. I had to keep moving, fast. I heard the men behind me, their footsteps pounding on the pavement, and panic surged. "Bennett!" I screamed, desperately scanning the darkness for him. I needed him now, but there was no sign of his familiar face. My heart raced as the shadows closed in. A distant light flickered in the park, revealing a small gazebo ahead. I made a split-second decision and sprinted toward it. Maybe they wouldn't see me in the dim light. I ducked inside, pressing my back against the cool wood and trying to slow my breath. The footsteps drew closer, echoing like thunder in my ears. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for silence. I could hear them now, hushed but urgent, muttering to each other. "Split up." She couldn't have gone far. I felt ice settle in my veins. They were hunting me, and the thought alone sent me spiraling into a wave of dread. I peeked through the slats of the gazebo, my heart in my throat. As they moved closer, their faces illuminated by a nearby street lamp. "Where is she?" one asked, a sneer twisting his lips. "I don't know. She was here just a minute ago." I held my breath, willing myself to stay invisible, but the tension was palpable. They turned back toward the park's entrance, frustration etched on their faces. I had to make a decision. I couldn't just wait here forever. Carefully, I slipped out of the gazebo, hugging the shadows. I needed to find Bennett, but where could he be? Did he know they were after me? I moved cautiously along the edge of the park, listening for any signs of him or the men. As I rounded a tree, I spotted something gleaming in the grass. A wallet. My heart raced. It looked like Bennett's. I crouched down, urgency pushing my fingers to dig it out. The contents spilled out. A few crumpled bills, a shattered ID card, and a small key with a tag that read Locker 77. The realization hit me like a freight train. Maybe this was a clue? I tucked the wallet under my arm, reminding myself I had to focus. I needed answers. But first I had to find a safe place. As I stepped further into the shadows, I heard a loud crash behind me. Something had fallen over. My eyes widened. "They're back," I whispered. I took off again, bounding through the trees, the urgency clawing at my chest. I didn't have a plan, but I had to move, had to find shelter somewhere I could gather my thoughts. But before I could take another step, a voice called out from the entrance of the park. "There she is." The chilling note of triumph sent a fresh wave of fear coursing through me. I was running out of time. I had to find Bennett and figure out what Locker 77 meant before it was too late. I sprinted toward the park's edge, my breath coming in shallow gasps. I couldn't let them catch me, couldn't let them know I was vulnerable. I was unsure of where to go or what to do, but instinct kicked in. I needed to move faster. My eyes darted around, looking for somewhere, anywhere I could hide. I spotted a row of bushes beside a worn-down stone wall. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. I dove into the underbrush and pressed myself flat against the cold ground, my heart hammering in my chest. I could barely hear them now, voices drifting like a distant echo. I strained to listen, hoping to gather more information. "We can't let her get away," one of them grunted. "She has no idea what she's involved in." My stomach nodded. What did they mean by that? What was Bennett caught up in? Panic seeped deeper into my bones. I waited, every second stretching on for what felt like an eternity, until I heard footsteps heavy and relentless pass close by. I held my breath, so terrified that even the slightest movement could give me away. After a moment, the footsteps faded into the night. I risked peeking out, making sure the coast was clear. The park was eerily quiet now, the sounds of the city dull and far away. I had to find Bennett and make sense of everything. It was time to figure out what Locker 77 meant, but where did I even start looking? I took a deep breath, found my resolve, and crept out from my hiding place. I kept my eyes peeled for any sign of Bennett, or anything that would lead me to him. I could feel the wallet tucked against my side, a small lifeline in this chaos. Bennett, I called softly, trying to keep my voice steady despite the tremor of fear. The silence was suffocating. I stepped cautiously toward the park's entrance. As I neared a collection of benches, something glinted in the grass just ahead. It was a phone screen. I recognized it instantly. It was Bennett's. I knelt down and picked it up, praying that it wasn't shattered beyond hope. To my relief, it flickered to life. The screen lit up with a single text message. Meet me at Locker 77. It's urgent. My mind raced. My heart quickened. This was it. This could be the answer, or it could lead me deeper into danger. But I had no choice. I had to go to the locker. I glanced back at the entrance, then in the other direction toward where I heard the men. There was no sign of them, but I knew they could return any moment. I had to get moving, but where the hell was Locker 77? Just as I started to run again, the vibration of the phone in my hand startled me. A call was coming in. I froze, my heart plummeting. Should I answer? What if it was them? But I couldn't ignore Bennett's voice either. I held my breath, made a split-second decision, and swiped to answer. Bennett? Silence. Then came a soft whisper, barely audible, they're coming for you. Hide. Trust no one. And just like that, the call ended. Panic coursed through my veins as I glanced around, the shadows feeling denser. I had to move. There was no safe space here. I turned on my heel and began to run, heart pounding, phone clutched tightly in my hand as I raced toward the unknown. I sprinted through the dimly lit streets, every step echoing my growing fear. I didn't know where Locker 77 was, but I had to find it fast. The city felt foreign and hostile. The shadows seemed to stretch toward me, hungry and dark. I gripped the phone tightly, its screen flickering faintly in the night. As I turned a corner, my thoughts scrambled. What if Bennett was in trouble because of me? I couldn't shake the feeling that I was at the center of something bigger than myself. The idea made my stomach churn. I spotted a small convenience store ahead. Maybe they could help me with directions or at least let me use their phone. I pushed through the door, the bell above chiming a cheery note that contrasted my frantic state. The store was dim with only a few lights flickering, and the shelves were stocked but disheveled. Can I help you? The cashier looked up, his eyes narrowing slightly as he took in my disheveled appearance. Yes, can you tell me where I might find Locker 77? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He hesitated, then nodded. That S in the train station, but, why do you want to go there? Something in his demeanor felt off. I glanced back toward the door, suddenly wary. I just really need to find it. Yeah, but he trailed off, eyes darting to the side. My heart raced as I followed his gaze, sensing something just wasn't right. Before I could question him further, the store door swung open violently. Two men stepped inside, their expressions fierce and determined. The cashier's face drained of color. Get down, I hissed, ducking behind a rack of snacks as the two men advanced into the store. My breathing quickened. I needed to get out. The cashier looked at me in panic, then nodded toward a back door. I didn't wait for more. I dashed for it, adrenaline fueling my flight. As I pushed through, I could hear the voices of the men rising behind me. I emerged into a narrow alleyway, the cool air hitting my face like a splash of water. I needed to think fast. I glanced up and down the alley and took off toward the right, heart pounding, praying to find a way to the train station. As I sprinted, the phone buzzed again in my pocket. I yanked it out, trembling. Another message from Bennett. They know you're searching for me. The locker is your only hope. My pulse quickened at his words. I had to get to that locker before it was too late. The train station was just a few blocks away. I could feel the urgency pressing down on me like a weight. I could not let them find me. I picked up speed, rounding another corner, when I spotted a familiar building, the train station. Excitement surged through me, but as I approached, a sudden realization struck. I could feel it in my gut. Someone was watching me. Then everything went dark. The world flickered back into focus just as I slammed into something solid, a wall, cold and unyielding. I stumbled back, disoriented, catching sight of the train station entrance ahead. Something was terribly wrong. The familiar hum of late-night travelers was gone, replaced by an eerie silence that enveloped the air. The flickering lights cast unsettling shadows, twisting the space into a distorted landscape. I hesitated, my instincts kicking in, warning me to remain alert. As I stepped closer to the entrance, the sensation of being watched intensified, prickling at the back of my neck. They were close, but I couldn't allow fear to paralyze me again. I turned and moved toward the station's side entrance, my mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. Locker 77, I whispered, the words lingering like a lifeline. If it held the answers, I needed to find it quickly. As I approached the doors, I scanned the surroundings, half expecting the shadows to shift, to reveal the men seeking me or worse. The doors creaked open, revealing the waiting area bathed in the dim glow of overhead lights. I found the hallway that led to the lockers and charged down it, counting the metallic doors as I passed. My heart raced with anticipation, and perhaps a hint of dread. What if the locker held something I couldn't bear to face? At last, I reached locker 77. I paused, breathless, staring at it as if it were a portal to an unknown realm. I remembered the words of that dark figure in the cafe. Some things are better left buried, but I had come too far to turn back now. I fumbled with the key I had found in Bennett's wallet, my fingers trembling as I inserted it into the lock. The click echoed in the hollow space around me, sending shards of adrenaline racing through my veins. Slowly, I pulled the door open. Inside was a collection of manila folders and a small, soft object wrapped in cloth. I reached for the folder first, flipping through its contents, a mix of names, addresses, and a newspaper clipping that sent a chill racing through me. It featured a picture of a woman who looked eerily familiar. My breath hitched in my throat. "Who are you?" I whispered to the silent air. Then I reached for the small bundle. Unfurling it revealed a delicate silver locket, slightly tarnished but intricate in its design. I opened it, heart racing, and inside was a tiny photo, a mother holding a baby. My stomach dropped as the truth hit me. The woman looked just like me. A noise from the hallway startled me. I quickly shoved the locket and folders back inside the locker and closed the door, heart pounding. There was no mistaking it now. They were here. The dim lights flickered again, this time more violently, as the voices rose and fell behind me. "We know she is here," came a loud yell. "Find her." My breath caught again as I glanced back at the hallway, panic wrapping around me like a vice. I could hear footsteps approaching, heavier and determined. My body reacted before my mind could catch up. I ducked into a dark corner of the space between two lockers, holding my breath. As they burst into the aisle, two shadowy figures materialized among the scattered lights. I could barely make out their features, cloaked in the dim glow, scanning the area with predatory intent. My heart raced as I bit my lip, praying they wouldn't look my way. "Split up. She can't have gone far," one of them barked. The second grunted in response, moving closer. I clutched the locket in my palm, feeling its smooth surface against my skin, a small comfort in the chaos. They moved through the space, their voices mingling with the sound of my own heartbeat echoing in my ears. Then, out of the darkness came a new voice. "Stop." It was Bennett. They turned, whirling to face him as I peered through the gap between the lockers. "You shouldn't be here," one of them warned, moving closer. "Get away from her," Bennett shouted back, stepping protectively in front of the lockers. The tension snapped into focus as the two men advanced on him, shadows encroaching. In that moment I felt a surge of power deep within my chest. I couldn't let Bennett confront them alone. I had to act. I rushed out, surprising myself, yelling, "Bennett, run!" Their heads snapped toward me, eyes wide with disbelief. I saw Bennett's expression shift from shock to determination. "Jessica," he shouted, reaching for me as he stepped back. "Stay behind me," I yelled, adrenaline sparking through my words, but the uncertainty of my own actions pulsed in my veins. Were these men dangerous, or were they just pawns in something darker? I dashed to Bennett's side, feeling the weight of the moment press down on me. "What do we do?" I asked, my voice shaking. "The lockers are our only chance," he breathed, urgency lacing his whisper. As I stepped forward, the weight of the truth loomed heavy in the air, questions swirling that I couldn't yet grasp. But hesitation offered no refuge, and I chose to fight instead. "Back away," I shouted, startling the figures momentarily. "We don't want any trouble." Just then, sirens echoed from the street outside, cutting through the tension. The men exchanged nervous glances, retreating slightly as the sound grew louder. My mind raced with possibilities. Could we escape in the confusion? Or was this only just the beginning? "Now," Bennett urged as the chaos escalated. With every ounce of strength I had, I pulled open the locker door again, shoving the locket and folders inside as hurriedly as I could. I turned back to find Bennett already making a break for it. "Follow me," he yelled, and I did, surging past him as the sounds of pursuit emerged once more. Racing toward the exit, the distant sirens grew louder, mingling with the shadows as we collided into the light of the station. I could feel the world swirling around me. Danger was close on our heels, but now I had the whispers of the truth to light my path. As we burst into the night and into the chaotic, waiting city, one question loomed above all others. What had we really uncovered, and was escaping the cafe only the beginning of something far darker? The night enveloped us, its mysteries unresolved, and I couldn't shake the lurking questions that followed like ghosts in the dark.